Welcome to the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, episode number 188. Before you yell cut, wait 5 more seconds. Wender.
Broadcasting from the back alley in Hollywood, it's the Indie Film Hustle Podcast, where we show you how to survive and thrive as an indie filmmaker in the jungles of the film biz. And here's your host, Alex Ferrari.
Welcome, my Indie Film Hustlers, to another episode of the Indie Film Hustle Podcast. I am your humble host, Alex Ferrari. Today's show is sponsored by Masterclass and Martin Scorsese's Masterclass, if you can believe it. Marty is teaching you how to direct films in his amazing new masterclass. I signed up instantly and I cannot wait for it to come out. To pre-enroll to get early access, just head over to indiefilmhustle.com/Scorsese. That's indiefilmhustle.com/SCORSESE. So I want to remind you guys that This Is Meg is going to be released on Hulu October 15th. So if you are in the States and you have Hulu, definitely check it out, guys. Watch the movie. Let's see what we did and how we did it. And I'm just so happy and proud that we were able to get this little movie sold to a juggernaut like Hulu. So super excited. I'm going to have more about the Hulu release coming up in the next week or two. But until then, let's talk about today's guest, film director Julian Galea. He lives in Australia and contacted me about a film that he made called Love to Paradise. Now, one of the cool things that he kind of told me about, and I went and searched myself, was that he had been able to get to the top 3 of all the pre-orders on iTunes in Australia. And he was beating out Alien and Wonder Woman and all sorts of other big budget Hollywood movies. So I was really interested in seeing how he was able to do that, and also how he was able to shoot basically a love story, which he shot mostly, if not entirely, in the islands of Malta. And it's just amazing. The trailer, you definitely got to check out the trailer at the show notes. It looks gorgeous, and I was so amazed at how he did it. He shot with the GH4, and he shot with basically a very small crew. Most of the times it was himself, but on the bigger days he had 2 to 5 people on his crew. And some of the things I found so amazing was he had these great, monstrous, beautiful aerial shots that he used with drones. And I was like, how'd you get the drone out there, this and that? He's like, look, one of the stories he talks about is how he just met a guy with a drone walking around, and he got 20 minutes of this amazing footage that he uses throughout the movie. And this kind of tips and techniques of how he was able to do this on a ridiculously low budget, and also the marketing of how he was able to crack the top 5 of pre-orders on iTunes, and how he avoided the festival circuit, and how he decided early on that he would not go through the festival circuit at all, and how he was going to go his own way. So just really interesting stuff that I think you guys need to hear. So without any further ado, here's my conversation with Julian Galea. I'd like to welcome to the show Julian Galea. How are you doing, brother?
Hey, Alex. Good, mate. Good. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Thank you so much for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it, man. So, you reached out to me about your movie Love to Paradise, which we're definitely going to get into. And your story was intriguing to me, and I think it could be very beneficial to the tribe. So I thank you again for being on the show and sharing your journey with us.
Absolutely. Awesome. I'm really happy to do it. Kind of went about it a little bit weird, I guess. Like, I changed careers. I finished school, and I'd always loved photography and film. I was always screwing around with my dad's video camera and stuff, and making crappy video things with my pets and family and stuff.
Right.
I was always the guy at the parties that was always had the camera and that. And I got into photography in high school, and I loved it. And I had a darkroom, and I used to experiment a lot with film and with different lenses and light and filters and all that type of stuff. I used to fool around. I spent way too much time in my darkroom, basically. But I finished school, and it just never occurred to me to explore a career in the arts. I just think it was a bit too far removed from my sort of blue collar background, And I guess I did what I was expected to do, and I went to university and got a career in building project management.
That sounds fascinating.
I absolutely hated it,
Right.
but I was really good at it, and
Right.
and I was kind of in my late 20s, and I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I took a sort of a trip to New York, a bit of a soul searching trip to New York, and when I was there, I went on this like 2-day little filmmaking thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had some old cameras, some old like 16mm Ariflex, I think they called. They're 16mm Ariflex cameras, and we got to use them, and just like, man, this is awesome, right?
Right.
I was like, I just fell in love with it, and I go, this is it. This is what I'm doing. Screw it. This is what I'm doing. So I went back home. I quit my job, sold my car, came back 3 months later, enrolled in film school, and I stayed in New York for a couple of years, and was just in film school and just made as many shorts as I could, and got onto any indie film production that I could to get as much experience, and came back to Australia, opened up a little production company called Galea Pictures, which is what I produced my feature through eventually. And then basically I spent the next 8 years not getting any feature films off the ground. pretty much.
What? That's so unheard of in the film business. That's completely unheard of in the film business.
Yeah, it was a tough slug, you know.
It's a hustle. It's a hustle, man. It's a hustle. It is definitely a hustle. So
But that's my background. Yeah, that's my background in a nutshell.
So how did Love to Paradise come to be?
Okay, well, of course, I had all these other feature projects that I had been working on, not getting out of development for one reason or another. And you know how many reasons there are that they don't. And I got to a point where I couldn't do that anymore. You know, I was at that point, really, I just needed to make a movie, but I wanted to make something that was, you know, obviously very personal enough and important enough for me to commit the next chunk of my life to. And I was, you know, trying to come up with an idea of, and it took me a couple of months actually to try to come up with an idea, because I'm thinking of doing something where I could manage it, you know, I didn't need too much sort of crew to do it, and maybe minimal cast, and I couldn't come up with anything interesting enough, right? And I was at my aunt's house this one day, and we got talking, and she said to me, and my family's all from Malta, right, which is 3 little islands underneath Sicily in the Mediterranean of Europe. And we got talking, and she said to me that, well, whenever I wanted to go to Malta, I had a place to stay.
Production value.
Yeah, right. Bing. So I didn't even know what you said after that. I was like, you know, my brain was just ticking. And I came back home, and I mapped out what was to be Love to Paradise, pretty much. You know, I knew I wanted to tell a story about a time in my life where I was really uncertain, you know, about my future and my relationship. You know, I just felt like I was in a place that really didn't explore my full potential, and I wanted to tell a story like that. And what better place to like set it in Malta, because it's absolutely beautiful. It's like it's such a old country, and its landscape is quite unique and exotic. And it's all juxtaposed against the bluest water of the Mediterranean. So I just figured, like, you know, if I fuck up the story, if I screw the story up, then at least I got something pretty to look at that the audience can see.
You've made a great travel video.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I ended up, you know, shooting in Malta. And what happened was, like, so I had my auntie's house that I stayed in, but that pretty much became our production base. You know, that's where we stayed. I actually shot a few scenes of the movie in that house, and it became our production office. You know what I mean? And our sort of, you know, every morning cast and crew would meet there. I'd have the days, day mapped out, and we'd have our production meeting. Yeah, it was like our base, which worked so well. And it was kind of like right in the middle of the country as well, so we could get around very easily. So it worked out really well.
Very cool. Now, did you have a full-blown screenplay, or did you do a scriptment? How did you actually put the story together?
Yeah, I had a screenplay. It was quite short, though. It was only like 60 pages. Okay. Something like that. But I love montage, and I had quite a lot of montage scenes in there, and I wasn't, because I had visited Malta a couple of times before, but I couldn't remember all the locations and stuff like that. I was kind of going off my memory, you know.
Mm-hmm. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
But I kind of figured that I could get a lot of these montage shots that I wanted by just exploring the country, and which I did. And the first edit of the movie was 100 minutes, but I really tried to cut that as clean as I could, and kept killing my babies, so to speak.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And the final film is now 80 minutes.
Nice. Now, how did you raise the budget for the film?
Well, I actually did something very painful and went back into my old career to save up enough money that I could come out of it and make this movie. Yeah.
So you hoard yourself out. I understand. It's okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I did.
I feel you hoard yourself out, but brother, I've done it many a time in my career, so don't feel bad.
It was for a bigger purpose, there's a bigger purpose there.
You're a hooker with a heart of gold, sir.
There you go.
Now, so you shot on the island of Malta, right?
Islands. Yeah.
Islands. So you jumped to island, so it wasn't just an island.
Yeah, there's 3 islands in Malta. There's Malta, Camino, and Gozo.
And you shot you shot on all of them?
All of them. I shot all over that place.
So
I don't think there was a place that I didn't shoot this movie. So
then, how many people were on your crew?
It varied.
Mm-hmm.
Right? We had a small crew. Like at the most, it was like 5.
Okay.
Sometimes it was just 2.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was shooting, and what I could sort of get away with.
So did you when you were on location? Because I'm assuming you just would show up to location and be like, okay. Because I'm assuming you didn't storyboard everything out, so it was a little bit more run and gun in the sense that like kind of what struck your fancy that day, and you kind of like, this would be a cool shot. All right, do the scene over there. Is that kind of how it went?
A little bit like that. Like I think it was certainly. I certainly opened myself up to the situations that came past our way, but I got to Malta 2 weeks before I was going to shoot, and really when I was planning this thing, I had no idea how long stuff was going to take. Right, I just had a crack.
Mm-hmm.
So I figured that I'd need about 2 weeks to work out all my locations and this and that, and that's what I did. And I actually got it like where the locations I wanted to shoot. I had chats with the owners of the if they were cafes or they were bars or they're this and that, and I just let them know like I'm shooting this little movie, and it'd be great if we could just get a couple of shots, this and that. And the people in Malta are so friendly. Like
mm-hmm.
I just like if I tried to do that stuff here in Sydney,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that wouldn't fly.
Yeah, same here in LA.
Oh yeah, right, okay. Yeah, they were so supportive, and just people were just curious, and interested. So sorry, getting back to your question, I did not storyboard. I'm not a big storyboard guy.
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do it in the past, and I don't know. I'm not a storyboard guy. I'll shot list my films, but I don't necessarily storyboard as such.
Same here. Here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I shot list more than I storyboard only if it's an action sequence or something like that where I really need to get a real clear idea to the crew of what I want to get. But generally speaking, it's mostly shot listing, and then you start off with 50 shots for the scene, and then you end up shooting 3. But that's just the way it goes because you only have time for 3.
Yeah, sure. But yeah, so I did definitely have a script and everything planned. But in saying that, we were very open to our environment, and the fact that I was telling this love story, which is there's basically 2 people in the whole movie,
mm-hmm.
Like we'd shoot our scenes, and then if there was opportunities to do more, or I saw something that wasn't in the script, it definitely took advantage of that. And that was so great about having a small crew as well. I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I saw something that I liked, we could just go for it. I didn't have 50 people behind me in my way that I couldn't turn my camera, or get people. Like it was great. It was very refreshing,
freeing,
filmmaking, freeing. Yeah, definitely. I love that. Like, we can get into this later, but I was just gonna one of the movies that I saw that really, while I was in this stage of trying to come up with a story,
mm-hmm.
a movie that I saw that really inspired me. And I remember watching an interview with Scorsese, and he mentioned a film called Breathless, which is Godard's film in 1959. Or it was made in 59, came out in 60.
It's brilliant.
Right?
It's brilliant.
I remember talking about this movie and how cutting edge it was for its time and this and that. And I remember flicking through Criterion Collection, and I saw Breathless, like, oh, I got to watch this, right? Started watching this movie, and I was just blown away, like, by so many things. The way it was shot, the way it was edited, it just really appealed to my senses as a filmmaker about how freeing that type of filmmaking is. And it kind of felt like, well, that's how I was sort of, I had always built my first feature up to be this like monstrous thing that I should never have done, because it's the worst. It's the worst thing that I could ever have done, and that took place over those 8 years. Like, I would keep doing that. Oh, it's got to be this. It's got to be that. I've got to come out of the gates as this, like, filmmaker who made it. But that was the most. That's the worst thing you can do,
dude. I mean, you sound like me. Like, this is exactly the same path. Mine's wasn't 8 years. Mine's was 15. So it took me a lot longer to get past it. But it's the exact same thing. You like, if I'm going to come out with my first feature, it has to be like, Reservoir Dogs, or it's got to be a big monster thing that everyone's going to talk about, win Sundance and get to the Oscar. Yep. Like, that's the pressure you put on yourself. Then you just, sometimes you're just like, kind of like, hey, I'm just going to go tell a story that's personal to me. And those are generally always the best movies.
Yeah.
So you're running around now. You have two actors. Now, was it a conscious decision not to cast known actors? Because I'm not sure if they're known in Australia, but they're not known here in the States. Were those two actors known at all?
Well, no, my casting actually, Michael Olivier, who plays Giovanni in the film, he's been in Glee. He was in Castle. He's actually just in that Lifetime's Menendez Brothers. I don't know if you saw that as well.
Okay.
So he's
a known actor.
Yeah, and he's a great actor too. He was so good to work with, and really professional. And when I got to, because I actually flew out to LA. My brother lives out there, and I stayed with him for that was.
So you cast out here.
Yeah.
And you flew these actors all the way to Malta?
Well, this is the thing. I for Maiko, yes, and for Mauricia just came off. She played a small role in Assassin's Creed. She played Queen Isabella in Assassin's Creed. Right, Assassin's Creed was filmed in Malta. Malta, they shoot a lot of big movies in Malta. Right?
Okay.
Just thinking like Troy, I think Gladiator, parts of Gladiator, it's Game of Thrones is shot there. Like, there's so many big budget Hollywood movies that shoot out there, and they just use Malta to make it look like anything they want, basically, right? And it's quite cheap over there too. But for me, shooting in Malta was a much more personal decision, and obviously a production design decision for me. But also, I've never seen a movie shot in Malta for showing Malta for being Malta, and I really captured that culture and vibrancy of the country in this film behind this really inspiring and passionate romance that I've told.
Awesome. Now, so you've got your movie, you've got your actors, you're now back in the dark hole that we call the editing room. First of all, what camera did you shoot on?
I shot on the Panasonic GH4. Great camera.
And you told me earlier that you shot on some vintage glass.
I did. Big fan of vintage glass. And
what was it? And what was the glass?
It was the old Nikors.
It was at a full prime set.
Yeah, I had the 24, 50, 85, 105.
Nice.
Yeah, that
and
was
some drones. And some drones.
Yeah, I got a funny story about the drones.
Tell me, because that was one of the things that really caught my eye when I was watching the trailer. I was like, wow, man, those drone shots are gorgeous, and they really just give you so much production value, especially in that location. So, what's the story on the drones?
Yeah, actually, with those drone shots too, we had our screening just a few days ago, right? It premiered here in Sydney, and when that first drone shot hit in the Blue Lagoon, it's called Camino. It's one of the islands in Malta. It's paradise, literally paradise. And when that song came on and that scene came on where the drone just punched up into the air, people just lost it. It looked awesome. So anyway, going back to the drone thing. So this is so funny. See, this is what happens, I think, when you just like, you just go, all out and you just have a crack. I just think the universe works with you,
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
I was prepping for the film, and I had these drone shots in the movie, but I didn't own a drone, and I didn't have time to learn to drive a drone, and I didn't have time to try to organize a guy in Malta, because it's not like here I could find crew in LA. It's a little bit harder to sort of get things going when you're over there. And my mate had a drone, but it was like, I shot in 4K with a GH4, right? My mate had a drone, but it was only 1080, and I didn't love the quality of it, and I didn't think it was going to mix well. And I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. I don't need it. It's just pretty. It's not, not essential to the story as such. I can still make it work without it. So I was happy to make this film without these shots. And we had the day that we shot in the Blue Lagoon, we were going back to the ferry to go back to the mainland, and I saw a drone in the air. And so I said to our guy, like the cast and crew, I said, here, take my gear. I'll meet you back there. I'm going to go have a chat to this guy. So I went up to this guy, Sean, his name is, and I said, hey, man, I said, I told him what I'm doing, and I said, could you mind if I have a look at, the shots that you're getting with this thing? And he's showing me what he's done, and he was, awesome. He was such a great operator. And I go, would you mind, just spending the next half an hour getting these shots? And I said, and he goes, yeah, really? I go, yeah, man, we're going to get this one. We're going to punch out through the water. We're going to come in the sky, and then we're going to get this other one coming across the island. And he was got as excited as I was, right?
All right.
And then we got these awesome drone shots that ended up being in the movie. And we also got the last shot in the movie. We got another drone shot off another island in Gozo, and it's got a really famous structure there. It's called the Azul Window. It's been in the Game of Thrones a bunch of times, and that it's like one of the most famous monuments in Malta. And that actually collapsed this year just through natural big seas and stuff. And we were the last movie to get that and to showcase that, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
wow! Happy about that.
That's a pretty amazing drone story.
Yeah, right.
I mean, but as a filmmaker, as an indie filmmaker, and as a guerrilla filmmaker in a sense, you've got to take advantage of things and just not be afraid to ask for stuff, man. So you got all this amazing. So you make all this. You have all this amazing footage. You're back in the edit room. What did you cut on? How long did it take you to cut? Were you the cutter? And did you color it? How did the workflow work?
Okay. Well, I originally, when I wasn't going to edit the movie, but I realized that I'd probably drive someone insane if they were to edit it, because I'd be all over them. So I said, I may as well just edit this thing myself. And I was kind of under a deadline, or trying to beat the deadline for Sundance at the time. Yeah, one in a bazillion chance of that happening.
Right. But, everybody is, dude. Everybody
you
is.
Have a crack, right?
Hey, dude, it's the lottery ticket. Why not, bro? It happens.
Yeah.
It happens.
Yeah. So I was putting myself. Actually, I flew back to LA. My brother was filming a series here in Australia, and his place was free in LA. So I went and stayed at his house. He goes, yeah, you can stay in my place, and I'll stay at your place. I go, all right, cool. So I was living in LA, and I was editing ridiculous hours a day. I think I was doing 16 hours a day. I was editing this movie, and I had my first assembly cut in a week, and I had finished editing the movie in 6 weeks. And my buddy, my EP on the film, Niccolo, he's an Italian guy that I met in film school 8 years ago in film school in New York, and we'd since made shorts and stuff together. This is our first feature film that we made together. And he goes, nah, man, you got to take your time. He goes, it's going to take you about a year. I go, a year?
You're out of your mind.
You're out of your mind.
Out of your mind. A year. That's ridiculous.
So I had this thing done in 6 weeks.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I submitted it to Sundance, and then I tried to rest, and you can't rest, right? It's like a painting; it's never finished. So I spent the next 10 months editing the movie.
So it ended up being a year. It ended up being a year.
It was exactly 12 months from the time I started editing to the time that I actually premiered the movie in the cinema was 12 months.
Wow.
And I was the editor. I got a funny color story for you too.
Mm-hmm.
So I had no money for post, like everyone.
Of course.
And
of course. Of course. It's like, oh no, we're gonna spend the money like to fly to Malta, but we have no money for color. It's always
exactly.
Always. So now it's gonna look like crap. Great. No, I'm joking. Go ahead.
Yeah. So like I saved, like I had this little bit of money left, right? I said, there's one area that I cannot skimp on. Right? And I was very impressed with actually the sound that we got. We were very lucky. We got great sound, which was really important to me. But with the color correction, I need a really good colorist to do this film, because it's the way it's going to look. It's just so important for it to look good, especially with the narrative that I was telling.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in LA and I got to talking to a few colorists there, which were awesome. But I had to come home for a family emergency, so I ended up doing the rest of the post here. And I found a colorist, a local colorist here, that ended up coloring. Like I gave him like reference stills from films and this and that, blah blah blah. Anyway, long story short, I had a film that was colored that was useless. Hated it, and ended up having to pay this guy. And I had no money left to color my movie.
Sure.
So I was at a point where I had no choice but to learn to color grade on a feature film, because that's what you do.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up color grading the movie myself as well. And I actually used Film Convert as one of I know you did with Meg as well, which was really integral as well to get that sort of. I really wanted that kind of a real rich, organic look to my film, especially because of the location just lent itself to that sort of that real texturalized sort of organic, natural look that I was going for, and I ended up getting it. I was really happy with the way it looked, and especially the way it projected the other day up in on screen at the cinema. It looked fantastic. I was so impressed at how good it looked.
That's
I
awesome.
think it's like it's the DCP magic.
No, it's not just the DCP. It's actually having a good starting base first, and then the DCP really holds basically whatever you've got. Now, so let's get into distribution, which is one of the main reasons I wanted to have you on the show. How did you swing a theatrical release for your film in a city as large as Sydney?
Yeah, look, you know what? I didn't plan it. I'll be honest with you. I didn't plan it. My whole plan for this film was to do a digital release and get it open around the world as wide as I could digitally, and do a little pre-order stage and try to build a pre-order list for it, and then drop it and see how we go. But I had what had happened. Trying to think now. Okay, yeah, this is what happened. So, and then I remember listening to one of your podcasts about Tug, right? And I remember when I was in LA that I heard about Tug. So I gave them a call, and they weren't operating here. I think they tried to get it up, but it didn't work or something. And there's another couple of companies here in Australia that do it, and I got to talking to them, and I was looking at that model of maybe doing a on-demand theatrical model. And I don't know. I just wasn't just the way it's structured here. I wasn't 100% on it. Basically because the number of seats that I needed to fill and all the marketing and everything that have to go involved in it. I'm in pre-production for my next movie now, right? So for me to do that properly and for all the work that it would take, I wasn't sold on it. Anyway. So I said, well, I'm just going to call up a few cinemas and let them know about my movie and what I have, and see if they can have a look at it. And maybe they might be interested in just cutting a deal direct with me as my own distributor, I guess.
Right.
And that's what I started doing. I just started calling cinemas directly. And you'd be surprised, I was, right, that exhibitors are quite open. If they've got something that they think will sell and people want to see, they're quite open to talking to you.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I did, and I just started calling everyone And then, took some meetings and ended up getting my film a special event screening at Event Cinemas, which are like the biggest chain of cinemas in Australia.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
And had my film premiere on Monday, and we're playing again tonight as well at Parramatta. And these theaters are like, they're nice.
They're not shabby, sir. They're nice.
Yeah, they are. They're like really nice. So I cut a deal with the guys at Event, and then I said, well, okay, why don't I do the same thing in Malta where I shot this film? Right, because they would surely be interested in having a local film there. Not surely, well, hopefully. Anyway, so I did the same thing. I got in touch with them, introduced myself and the film, and I told them what I had, and they watched it just like the event guys did, and they wanted to do a deal with me. So and it's not a four-walling deal. I actually did a proper
split deal.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, we did a revenue split.
That's amazing.
Because I didn't want to take on, the responsibility of, paying a four-walling fee and all that, because you could probably make it work, but you need like a marketing team behind you to make that work. Like, and for my Malta deal as well, like, there's commitment in there for, P&A and radio advertising and all that. Like, there's a full thing that they want it to work.
And it made sense because that movie is about Malta and it highlights Malta in a way it hasn't been highlighted before.
Yeah, absolutely. So we open in Malta on September 8th. Actually, I just got word too the other day that we got awarded Best Feature Film at Malta Film Festival, which is going to play on
That's
Saturday.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
So how did you get your movie on iTunes? Like, what's the process? And then I'll talk a little bit about your pre-order situation.
Okay, cool. So went through an aggregator, did research on, different aggregators. I ended up going through Bitmax.
Okay.
And they've been great. I've also, do you want me to talk about my strategy with the...
Please.
Okay, cool. Oh, sorry. My film just finished rendering. Okay.
I love it.
So my strategy was this. I'm going, okay, and I thought a lot about it, right? I thought about, okay, can I, on one side, I could try to make this film as cheap as possible to get as many people to see it as possible, because that would help. On the other side, it's like, well, you're only going to have the buzz for this movie for a limited amount of time, especially being a little title, if you're able to get any buzz at all, which I have been, which would be really lucky. I'm getting a bit of press now about this movie, especially because of the fact that it's been screening in Event Cinemas, right? That I go, well, why don't I, create windows of releasing this movie with regards to price? Like, I'll have a premium price, a regular price and a discount price, and that's what I've ended up doing. Like, and that's how. So the movie opens. It's going to be available. It's available now on iTunes for pre-order, but it's going to go on sale on August 29, which is on Tuesday, August 29. And it's going to be. I've selected to do it at a premium price, and I'm going to run that for a window, and then I'm going to drop my price to a regular price, and maybe do a discount price towards Christmas or something like that. I just figured that this is the best time to sort of cash in on any publicity that I'm going to be able to get for the film, and why not give it a crack? And at the end of the day, as you said, Alex, on your podcast, like, being out, like, our first film, it's all an experiment, right? Like, I'm trying to make decisions based on my research and my gut instincts. And if this works, well, I'll rinse and repeat. And if it doesn't, I'll change it for the next one.
I see a Malta trilogy.
Smart man.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's the way to do it, man. Is you just got to rinse and repeat. If it works, rinse and repeat, and just keep doing it until other opportunities show up, and they always do. Especially if you continue doing what you're doing and getting your film out there, getting your work out there. You're already at the top 1% of all filmmakers in the world. You actually did something that you said you were going to do. you know, and you're achieving.
I guess you're right.
And you're achieving it at a higher level than most do. So that's, you know, you're selling it, you're making money with it. That's the top of the top 1%. So you're like at the 0.1%. You're like, you're actually, some money has come in. That's amazing. You know, that's amazing. Wow. So now,
do you want to be my life coach, Alex? Hey, you know what? Actually, also, you know what's pretty cool?
Yeah.
We were ranked 3 on iTunes pre-order bestsellers list.
I was just going to ask you that. Now,
in Australia.
How did you beat Alien and Wonder Woman in pre-orders in Australia? How is that possible?
You should saw my face when I like my.
But seriously, no.
Moving.
How did you do
moving left?
So, but in all honesty, though, how were you able to push it up there? Did you do a whole lot of social media marketing? Did you push it? What did you do?
Yeah, all that. I basically built up a network of people that I got in touch with personally, every one of them, and I let them know about my film. I told them what I'm doing, and I told them how personal it was to me, and that I've got this little movie coming out, and if they could support it, like I'd really appreciate it because it's going to help build the ranking in iTunes, and my whole strategy behind that was. As you know, with all the pre-orders, they all count as day one release, right? Yep. So on day one, if you've accumulated, 100 pre-sales, then pre-orders, then it's going to count as 100 sales on day one, which, you want to sort of rank yourself up with sort of bigger titles next to you. So people who have never heard of your movie jump on iTunes and see your movie and they might get interested, right? I mean, that's the whole thing. That's when you start making money.
Right.
So that's what I did. I made it very personal. I think that was probably my strategy. I just made it very personal to people, and I reached out to everyone on the phone, over email and on the phone, and had a chat to them, and they became a bit invested in what I was doing. So I think that's the strategy I used anyway.
It's you, and I hope everyone listening understands. You never underestimate the power of the personal connection by calling someone up personally and talking to them and putting in that legwork and working that hustle. People do react to it. People do react to it, and it's obviously it worked for you because, my God, I mean, Australia is not a small market by any stretch, and that you can get up to the top 3 on pre-orders, beating the big Hollywood movies, is an accomplishment. It's a monster accomplishment. So, congrats for that, man.
Thank you very much. I mean, I'm not number 3 anymore.
Oh no, of course, no. You were no. You can never stay up there. I mean, even that movie that I did the interview, Range 15, that made $3 million.
Oh yeah.
They only got to the number 2 spot, and they only stayed there for probably like 10, 12 days. And but they still got there. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's huge. That's a huge deal. Now,
I mean, and just on that too. I mean, those guys are like the poster child for a digital release, right? I mean, they killed it.
They killed it. I mean, they killed it in a way that I bow down to Range 15, and I'll put it I'll put a link into the interview in the show notes because I wanted them on the show so bad. I chased them probably for about 3 months because we just couldn't get the scheduling right. And I'm like, Nick, you've got to come on. I gotta spread the word about what you've done. And he was so awesome, and it was really inspirational to see, like, oh shoot, these guys took on the studios and won. It was pretty insane.
And I love their attitude about it as well. Like I just like the way they went about it and how they talk about it. It's great. I think that's very inspiring. I mean, your whole show is inspiring.
Oh, thank you, brother. I appreciate that.
It is, and it really helped me on my journey as well. And as I said, you were making Meg about the same time I was making my film,
right?
And I just felt like there was a community there that I didn't personally know, but I knew were going through this the same journey. So it was comforting and supporting as well. And your program is very, very supporting to the community.
Oh man, thank you so much, man. I try to be as of much service as I can, man, and try to give as much good information as I can. And it's just so much BS out there with people who talk a lot and don't do anything. So I wanted to actually be one of those guys that actually said, hey, you know what? I'm going to go make a feature, and I'm going to go do it, and I'm going to call myself out on my show, and I'm going to hold myself accountable, and went out and did it. So I'm glad that my journey helped you in some way, because I'm super impressed. I can't wait to see the movie, and I'm super impressed with what you did with Love to Paradise, because it's inspiring that. And I know, and look, you and I are both filmmakers who've made our first feature films, and we did it a little bit later in life. Not like we're not 20. Neither of us are 20. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show. But neither of us is 70 either. So we did it a little later in life. But the thing is that we are in that top 1% of 1%, man, because we did it. We actually got off our butts and actually went out and hustled and spent a year of our life putting it all together. And it's something and I think I don't realize it as much as I should, and I think you probably don't either.
I'm the same, actually. I think I'm going through that at the moment where it still probably hasn't sunk in.
Yeah. When I was at the premiere last week of Meg, I was just like, did I make a movie? Like it just seems surreal. It's like I'm watching it from someone else's perspective. It's pretty, because you know what? I think both of you and I, as you said earlier in the show, were saying that, the feature film was this monster mountain that you had to climb, and you couldn't get it out there, and it had to be big, big, big. It had to be guns a blaring. And I think we built it up so much. And I think so many other filmmakers build it up so much that they never move, because, oh my God, why would you? It's huge.
That's right. And you become your own worst enemy.
Yes.
You do.
You throw those obstacles in front of yourself, and we finally broke through. And I hope anyone listening to this gets that message that it's not that big of a deal. Go out there and just make it. And if it's great, great. If it's not, no big deal. Keep moving forward and just do it, man.
Absolutely. But I think also if people, where also I got stuck, I think, for a long time as well. And it's very important. So I was always juggling this, thinking about your audience, and who's this movie for, how you're going to get out there, all that stuff, right? And it's so important. It is, right? Without doubt. But it can also be inhibiting as well, because you may have something really personal to say, and you're racking your brain thinking about who you're going to sell it to, right? Mm-hmm. And let's say you do something that's a real personal story to you, and it hasn't got a hook or something that you can really tag into, or it's not like it's not like a doco or something that's simple to, and you go, well, I'm not going to make that because I've got no way to sell it, this and that. But you know what? If you do it for a price, and it really means something to you, then you can look back at that in forever long and always be proud of it, because it's meant something to you.
Amen.
Not because it meant something to an executive that wants to get it out to whoever it is. And if you do something that's really personal to you, like especially Love to Paradise with my film, I never looked at it as I never looked at this as a sort of money making exercise. Although of course I need to make money. I'm gonna, but it was kind of secondary to really making a piece of art, I guess, that's personal enough to me and something that I wanted to explore and dedicate myself to, for that chunk of my life, And now I think hopefully, well, from the reactions from my first screening anyway, like it really connected with people on the levels that I wanted it to, and I hope that the word spreads about the film, and that people get the opportunity to see it, and it has an impact on them the way I intended.
Yeah, it's exactly my feelings with Meg. I didn't expect it to have any. Money was a secondary idea for me. I just did it for a price. Yeah. Under $1 million. Under
$1 million, yeah.
Under $1 million, of course. And if it didn't make any money, okay, no big deal. If it makes money, great. But I'm going to make my movie, and hell or high water, it's going to go out. And that's a great way to do a personal film. I'm not going to make $100,000 personal film. I can't roll like that. You know what I mean? But if you do it for a price, you're absolutely right. Why don't you do it? Put it up on YouTube if it's, seriously. Yeah. I wouldn't. I would try to make money with it first, but afterwards, just get it out there, man. Let other people see it. Upload it to Amazon. Get it wherever you want.
Well, that's it, right? You can go now on Amazon Video Direct for free. You don't even need to go through an aggregator.
Yep.
Right?
And then you can point everybody there.
Exactly. I mean, distribution has been solved. It has.
But the thing that hasn't been solved is the audience. And getting people in the marketing. That's the thing that has not been solved yet. Now, what are your international release plans for the film?
So we are in Europe. We're everywhere bar Europe is basically opening up on iTunes and Amazon on the August 29, which is Tuesday.
Okay.
And in Europe, we are in cinemas in Malta on 8th of September, and it's going to be released. I haven't even got the date next to me here at the moment, but it's somewhere in October. I think it's October 4.
Okay.
In Europe.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how about the States?
In the States, August 29. So Tuesday it will be available, and it's available now for pre-order.
Okay, great. On iTunes and on Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no pre-order on Amazon.
Okay.
That I'm aware of.
Okay.
But on iTunes, it's available for pre-order, and it goes on sale on Amazon as well on August 29.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Now,
yeah, and all that info is on my website, lovetoparadise.com. You can jump on that. There's links to everything on there and some stills and information about the film trailer, all that biz.
I'll put all of that stuff in the show notes. So I'm going to ask you the questions I ask all of my guests at the end, and if you've heard my podcast, you know some of these questions. So what advice would you give a filmmaker wanting to make their first feature?
I would say don't wait, don't wait. I did, I waited for everything. I waited for someone to say yes. I waited for someone to give me money. I waited for, the right crew. I waited for the right cast. I waited for everything. And you know what? That can kill you. Just go back to the drawing board and write something that you can get made, and it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be something. It doesn't need to be all that. Make a personal character piece, and get it out there. And as I said before, if it's personal enough to you, you're going to enjoy the process. If something comes out of it, it does, and try to be smart about it as well. Like, think about your audience while you're doing it, but don't let that. I don't think that should be your number one factor, although other people would disagree, obviously, but I don't. I think as a filmmaker, I think you really need to make films that mean something to you. Yeah. And then, get them going on their journey. So yeah, just don't wait. Just do it. I mean, as I said, distribution's been solved. It's done. You can get your movie out there. Think about your audience as well, and how you're gonna market to them as well while you're doing it. But write something that you can get made. You don't need a cast of 50. Like, how many times have I met filmmakers that they're still talking about their first feature film, but it's so big and so involved, and they're trying to get backing from people, but they've never made a film before. No, of course, no one's going to give you money.
Right? Yeah.
You need to prove yourself. Like, no one owes you a favor. Let's get that straight. Like, you got to lose that chip off your shoulder. You come out of fields, cool, think you're like your next Scorsese, and everyone's just going to give you money. Like, there's no one at the gates waiting to give you money. Okay.
Yeah, money and A-list cast and an amazing script and and cappuccinos and organic fruit.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know what? Like, you referenced this before, like, Jay Duplas's keynote speech that he did years ago, right?
Amazing.
Man, that is just, everyone needs to listen to that regularly, right? So it's like, cavalry ain't coming. There's no one waiting. Okay, go out and do it. Like, you need to prove to the world. The world doesn't need to prove to you. You know what I mean? It's up to you to make it happen. That's it.
Great advice, sir. Great advice. Now, can you tell me a book that had the biggest impact on your life or your career?
Shit, Alex, that's a new one.
It is, isn't it? I threw a curveball. Threw a curveball at you.
Shit. Okay. I would say, it's got to be The Alchemist, definitely.
Oh, you read my mind, dude. I love that movie. I mean, I love that book.
Yeah. Paulo Coelho, I think his name is the author.
Paulo Coelho. He's a Brazilian.
Is that how you say it?
Coelho, yeah. He's that book is amazing, isn't it? And anyone I'll put it in the show notes. Anyone who's not read that book needs to read it. It is, well, how did it impact your life?
Well, it's so inspiring, it was all about, following your dreams and when you're on the right path in your life, that the world will, open itself up to you and, let your dreams come true. I know it sounds all like, fairy, but I can tell you from my experience in making this movie and, taking that leap of faith, that, you don't need to, like, one thing I learned, you don't need to know all the answers. Like, I didn't have all the answers. I jumped on a plane to Malta to make my film. I didn't know all my locations. I didn't know I was going to pull all these scenes off, right? Like, I didn't. But if you trust in yourself and trust in the process and trust that you're doing the right thing, then, things happen. And like I told you that story about the drone.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. And now back to the show.
But there was a lot of other scenarios in my film that happened that I did not know those answers when I went out there, but I took a leap of faith and it worked, And I think, that book really, instilled that, and then that whole sort of, law of attraction, philosophy, which I definitely believe in.
Yeah, I'll tell, and I've said it before on the show, is the second I started down the path with Indie Film Hustle, doors just swung open. Opportunities.
Yeah,
swung
you talk
open.
about that. Yeah, absolutely.
All the time. I can't even tell you the people I've met, the opportunities that have been presented to me, the jobs that I've gotten, purely because I started down this path and just started putting things in momentum and started putting momentum forward. And you'll be amazed at what happens when you start something. And as I think it was Robert Rodriguez that said, when you try to compete with somebody, you usually fail. But when you try to work, I'm murdering the quote. But the bottom line is, when you start down a path, the doors open up from the universe, and forces will come to help you down your path. But you have to get off your ass and do it.
Absolutely. It's all about work, right? It's all about work.
Hustle, baby, hustle.
Like, it is. Like, your whatever your dreams are, like it's there. It's a point. And in between where you are right now and that is a whole bunch of work, right?
Yes.
Start working.
Get to work, and you will get there. It might take a year, it might take 10, but you will get there. Now, what is the lesson that took you the longest to learn, whether in the film business or in life?
Oh, okay. Maybe I muddled that up in the last answer, but I think for me, it's like trusting in my instincts. I didn't before, I'd sort of danced around it, but I definitely learned now to trust my instincts and go with it. And for the most part, it's working out for me, and not listen to other people. You don't need to. Like being trapped by dogma and just what other people tell you to do and all that stuff. It's just destructive. Like don't. You're your own person. You're not someone else. Just do your own thing. Only
listen to things that sound true to you. You can listen to other people. If it rings true to you and to who you are, then do it. But don't stick to dogma just because. Because I'll tell you what. If I would have listened to everybody I told, hey, I'm going to go make this movie called This Is Meg and I'm going to shoot it in 8 days, everybody around me said, you're nuts.
Yeah.
You're crazy.
Yeah.
But I did it. Yep. And you just got to go out and do it. Now,
absolutely.
What are 3 of your favorite films of all time?
Yeah. Jeez. Okay. I actually wrote these down.
Okay.
Right? And I've been thinking throughout this interview, they're already starting to change. But just how it is. They change depending.
Whatever tickles your fancy.
Number 1, I got to go Taxi Driver.
Okay, great.
It just never gets tired. I just love that movie for so many reasons, and I think it's probably my favorite movie of all time.
Okay.
Next, I'd go Annie Hall.
Excellent film. What a movie.
Love Woody Allen.
Yes, what a wonderful movie.
And Annie Hall, it's probably one of my favorites of his. So
it's as perfect. It's as perfect of a romantic, a drama, a romantic comedy as ever. It's just perfect.
Yeah, I guess it's a romantic comedy or a drama. It's probably more a romantic comedy, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, I love that film. I've seen it too many times, and I'm going to throw a curveball here. And this is like one of my. It never gets tired, and it's. I think it's come from my 10 down to my top 5 now, and I'm going to say, because I haven't heard it on your show before, Midnight Run.
Oh yes, John Voight.
No, not John Voight.
Oh no! I'm sorry, De Niro and Grodin. No, I'm thinking of I'm thinking of Midnight Train. Midnight Run. I love that movie.
It is. I think it's the best comedy ever. Like,
it is so good. Midnight Run is amazing. If you guys have not
Those
seen
two
Midnight
together?
Run, you should definitely go out and watch it. It's so good.
Yep. Yeah. It's awesome. I love De Niro and Grodin together. They are just amazing. Like their chemistry together is just, it's too funny. I'm laughing at it now thinking about it.
Yeah, I was working in my video store when that came out in '89. If I'm not mistaken, that movie came out in '89, and I saw it 100 times in the store. I just would play.
Oh, is that right?
I would just play it. I would play it on the screen in the store just because I loved it. It was a great, great movie. I haven't thought about that movie in years. Thank you for bringing that up. First time on the show. Cool First time on the show, sir.
So you had a video store, did you?
I worked at a video store. Yeah, I worked. That's how I got. That's how I jumped into this crazy business. I worked in a video store for 5 years during a little bit before high school, and then all through high school, and a little bit after high school, before college. So yeah, man, I owned 3,000. Well, you know, I was maybe a little something like that. But I had 3,000 VHSs in my collection at one point.
Wow.
And it was ridiculous. You should not have 3,000 VHSs.
What'd you do with all them? What'd you do with them?
I eventually just either gave them away because I couldn't do anything with them when I moved to college, and I moved, just a certain point, I started switching to DVD, and then it just kind of is like, a moot point to go back to VHS. But some movies you can't even get anywhere else other than VHS. But anyway, that's another story for another podcast. So where can people find you, sir?
So you can find me, or you can find the film at lovetoparadise.com.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm on Instagram, Julian Galea. Mm-hmm. Facebook, I'm at Love to Paradise, I think it is. Mm-hmm. And that's it, Facebook to it. What else is there?
That's good. That's good. I'll put all of those links in the show notes. Julian, man, thank you so much for your inspirational story and really sharing your story with the tribe. I really appreciate it. I'm so happy that the podcast and my journey with Meg really helped you out on your journey with Love to Paradise. So I really I'm proud of you that you got out and did it, and congrats on all your success on iTunes, Amazon, and your theatrical release in Australia, brother. So, and in Malta too, man. So congrats, brother.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Alex.
It was so funny to hear that Julian was making Love to Paradise at the exact same time as I was making This Is Meg, and that, he felt that there was kind of like a brother in arms out there going through the struggle as the same time he was. So I hope you guys take this big message from this interview is, both Julie and I were just tired of waiting for other people to give us the permission to go out and make our movie. And, both of us went out and did it. Julian was halfway across the world, and I'm here in Los Angeles, and we're making our movies. And that's the wonderful and powerful thing about being independent filmmakers and the power of this podcast, that it goes all around the world, and people from every background is listening, hopefully, to this message, and you guys can do it too. And there's no reason why you can't. So if Julian and I were able to do our low budget, micro budget films, on a shoestring and a dream, then you guys can too. And I hope this interview lights a fire in your ass and you get up off of that ass and go actually make something instead of talking about it, planning it, or thinking about it. Just go do it. If you want to get links to anything we spoke about in the show, just head over to indiefilmhustle.com/188. And as always, keep that hustle going, keep that dream alive, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for listening to the Indie Film Hustle podcast at indiefilmhustle.com. That's INDIEFILMHUSTLE.com.
You guys are still here. Well, because you're here, I want to let you in on a little secret. I have a new course that I have not mentioned anywhere else, have not announced it on Indie Film Hustle yet. We will be doing a whole bunch about it in the next couple weeks, but I've teamed up again with Michael Haig, the author of Writing a Screenplay That Sells and of our other best-selling online course, The Hero's Two Journeys. Now, the course that we've put together is how to pitch your screenplay in 60 seconds based on his new book. Now, this is an online course that has just been released on Udemy, and I, again, have not announced it yet. So I'm giving you guys a special discount, which no one else is going to get. The course is retailing for $175, but you guys get it for $12. All you got to do is go to indiefilmhustle.com/pitch12. That's indiefilmhustle.com/pitch12. It is a great course if you want to learn how to pitch your idea, your screenplay, your novel, whatever, but it is really focused on just how do you pitch. I can't tell you how many screenwriters I know who can write marvelous scripts but have no idea how to pitch. So if you're a director, if you're a screenwriter, you always have to know how to sell your ideas, how to pitch your ideas. And this course will help you do it. So indiefilmhustle.com/pitch12 to get this course for $12. Thank you for listening and sticking around after the show, like Ferris Bueller. Thank you guys. I'll see you in the next episode.